Welcome to the deep dive. Think about the last time you argued with someone you really care about. Could be anyone, partner, family, a good friend.
Yeah, and you probably remember what it was supposedly about. Maybe money, maybe who didn't take the bins out, maybe something tiny that just blew up.
Exactly. But here's the thing, the real puzzle, I guess. While you were maybe, talking pretty intensely, perhaps even yelling, did either of you actually say what you really felt?
That's the core mystery, isn't it? We're always communicating, always talking, but in those really critical moments, emotionally speaking, we often fail spectacularly. It's like a total breakdown in translation.
Right. And that's what we're diving into today, this gap between the harsh things we say or the distracting things or sometimes just totally irrelevant stuff
Mm-hmm.
and the actual vulnerable, maybe even terrifying truths hiding underneath all that noise. What are we really asking for when we pick a fight about, I don't know, the washing up?
So our mission today is to look at this single fundamental rule that seems to underpin the health of, well, pretty much any relationship. It's
Okay.
about sticking as close as you possibly can to the truth of what you're feeling deep down. And crucially, getting that truth across not just with honesty, but also with kindness and politeness.
Honest, kind, and polite. Okay. The three-part vow, as you called it before we started.
Exactly. And what's striking is that this choice to be honest, kind, and polite, it's always there.
Yeah.
But we usually swerve. We choose deflection instead.
Yeah, we picked the fight about the laundry because admitting, I don't know, I feel lonely or I feel scared is just too much, too raw.
Precisely. What comes out of our mouths is often, well, a carefully constructed mask. It's hiding something much deeper, much more vulnerable. It feels safer, doesn't it, to be angry about something specific rather than admitting a huge, terrifying need.
Definitely. Let's dig into some examples because this is where it gets, frankly, a bit absurd, but also very recognizable. This idea of the A statement, the surface argument, versus the B statement, the hidden truth.
Okay, yeah. So take a classic one. Misdirection of concern. Someone says quite coolly, oh, I don't care in the slightest when you come home. Honestly, I'll probably be asleep anyway.
Right. The message is pure indifference, detachment. I'm fine on my own.
But the underlying reality, often it's crushing disappointment, maybe loneliness. The real B translation could be something like, actually, I miss you quite a lot. And I'm pretty upset you keep choosing nights out with friends over time with me. It makes me feel a bit abandoned.
Wow, yeah, that's a huge gulf between A and B, indifference versus feeling abandoned.
And it gets even more extreme when we feel really threatened in a relationship. Someone might explode, screaming, go to hell and die, I hate you. Pure attack, pure rejection.
Designed to push the other person away, fast, maybe before they can hurt you first.
Exactly. But if we could somehow, run that through an emotional translator, the hidden B statement, the terrifying truth beneath the rage might be, I am so incredibly scared of how much I need you, how much I depend on you.
So the hate is really fear.
Often, yes. My only way to cope with the thought you might leave me is to push you away first. The cruelty is basically a shield, a defense against feeling utterly dependent.
And sometimes the fight isn't even that dramatic, right? It can be about really small domestic things, but they take up so much energy.
Oh, absolutely. You hear about couples having these marathon arguments, really heated, about politics or, I don't know, how to load the dishwasher correctly.
Hours spent fighting about systems or logistics or some tiny detail when the actual emotional need, the real craving is maybe just simple.
Yeah, like a hug.
Mm-hmm.
Or just wanting to feel reassured and close for a moment. It's that classic hug substitution, fighting about something else entirely because asking for comfort feels too vulnerable.
Or think about targeted anger, like really tearing into your partner for being 5 minutes late, making a huge deal out of it.
Right, when the real hurt, the thing that actually stung, was maybe that earlier they didn't ask more about our day. The lateness is just a convenient hook to hang the deeper feeling of being ignored or unseen onto.
Okay, so this brings us to the big question. If the solution being honest, kind, polite seems so obvious and clearly leads to better outcomes, why is it so incredibly hard to actually do it?
Yeah, it sounds simple on paper, doesn't it? Just say what you mean.
Hmm.
But in the heat of the moment, it feels almost psychologically impossible sometimes.
Totally.
And that's because I think we massively underestimate how complex this skill actually is.
Yeah.
We tend to dismiss our communication failures as just being, silly or too emotional.
But it's not silliness.
Not at all.
Yeah.
The sources we looked at suggest this skill, this ability to be candid and kind,
Yeah.
it's profoundly complicated.
Hmm.
It takes huge emotional awareness, coordination, real maturity.
You mentioned an analogy earlier, like playing an instrument.
Exactly. Think about learning the violin. It takes years of practice, precision, understanding theory, developing muscle memory. It's incredibly complex.
Okay.
Well, learning to speak our emotional truth with kindness and politeness. It's arguably just as complex as playing the violin, maybe more so.
And potentially more useful in daily life, I guess.
Oh, absolutely. A good deal more useful and beautiful, you could argue. Yet, think about how society values skills. We celebrate musicians, athletes, surgeons, engineers, people who master complex physical or intellectual tasks.
Right. They get awards, recognition.
But this fundamental human skill, translating our inner world gracefully, goes almost completely unrecognized, unrewarded, untaught even.
It's like if the world made more sense, there'd be training centers for this. Maybe Olympic events for candid kindness.
Wouldn't that be something? You'd get medals for successfully navigating a difficult conversation. Because honestly, mastering this solves so much human misery.
So why don't we master it if it's so valuable?
Well, the tragedy is, we often don't say what we mean because we simply haven't seen it done well. We learn by watching, right? And most of us probably grew up with parents or caregivers who also used deflection as their main strategy.
So it's learned behavior, passed down.
Pretty much. Think about, say, a parent talking to their grown-up child, saying something like, "Oh, you're off my hands now. Doesn't matter to me what you do." Presenting this image of cool independence.
Yeah, sounds familiar.
But they might be completely choking back the B truth, which is, I really crave closeness, I feel a bit lonely, and I desperately wish you'd call more often.
Or maybe arguing constantly about money.
When the unspoken fear is, I feel like I'm failing as a provider and I'm terrified. I need you to tell me we're okay, that I'm okay with you. We learn the language of distance, the language of attack, because that's what we heard, and that becomes our default script.
Okay, so if the problem is learned deflection, then the solution must be learned translation. We need to consciously practice decrypting this stuff.
Exactly. We need practical ways to map that outward aggression, the A statement, the attack, back to the inner vulnerability, the B truth.
And how do we do that? What's the key shift?
The shift is always away from blaming the other person or the situation and towards owning your own feeling, your own vulnerability. It's moving from you did X or this situation is Y to simply I feel Z.
Okay, let's try another example. The aggressive one. Shut the hell up about your stupid friends. I'm sick of hearing about them. Clearly an attack, trying to control.
Right. Driven by insecurity, probably. Now, the skilled B translation reframes it completely. It might sound something like, actually, I'm feeling a bit ignored right now.
Starting with, I feel.
Yes. And maybe adding, it sounds a bit ridiculous, I know, but I can't help feeling a little bit jealous of how much time you seem to be spending with your mates. See, you own the feeling, acknowledge it might seem irrational, but state it clearly. That's the honesty, kindness, and politeness coming together.
That lands completely differently than shut up about your friends.
Worlds apart. Or take the really extreme one. I don't want to see you again, you stinking rat-faced little... Well, you know, total annihilation attempt.
Yeah, peak fury.
But the translation turns that outward venom inward into a raw admission of fear. The B might be, look, it seems I'm feeling really, really upset right now, like incredibly overwhelmed, and honestly, it makes you want to just pull away, take some distance.
Still acknowledging the anger.
Yes, but framing it as an internal state, and then maybe adding the deeper layer. I guess deep down, I'm just terrified you're going to abandon me.
Right.
And that fear is so big right now, it's clouding everything.
Wow. That completely changes the dynamic, doesn't it? It stops being a fight to the death and becomes almost an invitation, a request for help, for reassurance.
Exactly. It opens the door to connection instead of slamming it shut. But it's like building a muscle. You have to practice it, even in the less personal settings like work. People argue over budgets, deadlines, project scope.
And the B truth might be?
I feel like my contribution isn't being valued here, or I'm worried my authority is being undermined, or I'm scared I won't get the recognition I need for this. Recognizing that potential translation is the first step.
Okay, I get the value. The translations sound amazing, powerful. But here's my hesitation. When you're actually in it, when you're flooded with adrenaline, maybe someone's just hit you with their A statement.
Mm-hmm.
Surely trying to calmly construct an honest, kind, and polite sentences will nigh on impossible. How do we actually do this pausing thing when our brain is screaming, fight, flee?
That is absolutely the crux of it. And it's why the solution isn't some grand, complicated plan for relationship nirvana.
Yeah.
It's much smaller. It's one modest-sounding but incredibly difficult vow.
Which is?
The vow to simply pause
Yeah.
for a second. The focus has to shift from trying to control the external conversation to managing your own internal reaction first.
Okay, so the pause creates that tiny space, a gap between the thing that hurt or angered you and your typical, maybe destructive response. What happens in that pause?
In that pause, you consciously deploy the filter, the three-part filter. You mentally ask yourself, right in that moment of rising tension, okay, wait, if I were going to try and be three things right now, honest, kind, and polite, what would I actually say?
Ah, so it forces a kind of mental override, a script change.
Exactly. The honest part pushes you past the usual defenses towards the real feeling underneath. The kind and polite parts force you to package that vulnerable truth in a way the other person might actually be able to hear it, rather than just react defensively themselves.
So instead of launching with "you always" or
Yeah.
"you never,"
You're forced to restructure. You start with "I feel" or "I'm feeling." You talk about your experience, maybe acknowledge it's temporary, maybe even acknowledge it's a bit messy. The pause is the action. It changes your intention from winning or defending to connecting and understanding.
the power in that conscious decision, that filter, it really could shift things dramatically. It moves the whole interaction from being like a battlefield of misunderstanding
Yeah, where you're just firing accusations past each other.
to potentially becoming a space where you can actually see each other, understand each other.
And that ultimately is what determines the health of any relationship, isn't it? That difficult, rarely practiced skill. Translating our own pain, our fear, loneliness, insecurity into language that meets that three-part vow. The pause is the doorway, and the honest, kind, polite filter is the key.
It sounds so simple, that modest vow to pause, but it really could change everything. So maybe that's the thought to leave everyone with today. Think about the last time you reacted with, well, cruelty born out of hurt or deflection born out of fear.
What was the A statement you threw out there? And then take a breath. What might the honest, kind, and polite B translation have been?
Really sit with that. Contemplate the quiet power of that honest pause.
It truly could be the start of a different way of connecting. The key to unlocking real understanding.